The Clutch Champion Run Happy, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Welcome to the Belmont Stakes preview show, where Saturday night, a classic winner will be crowned in the test of the champion. A grueling test of speed, endurance, and ability. Was Rich Strike's improbable Kentucky Derby upset a fluke? Or is this son of Keen Ice the real deal? We the People should be the one everyone is chasing. Can he be the first to pull off the Peter Pan Belmont double since Tonalist 8 years ago? Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher is as good as it gets in bringing contenders to this mile-and-a-half test. 15 years ago, his filly Rags to Riches out to Curlin in the Belmont. This year, his daughter of Curlin, Nest, will take her turn against the boys. Her stablemate, Mo Donegal, ran down alone speed in his major Derby prep, or should go on to win the Preakness. Can he repeat his Wood Memorial determined stretch drive on Saturday? Welcome to the Belmont Stakes preview show, brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today, taking good care of the Kentucky Derby winner there, Rich Strike. Good to have you with us. We're going to go through all the contenders, this 154th edition of the Test of the Champion. Can Rich Strike do it again, or was that Derby win a fluke? Can the filly do it again for Todd Pletcher? Won this race 15 years ago with Rags to Riches. As we take a look at the field for this edition of the Test of the Champion, brought to you by Naira Bets. We the People was the morning line favorite in this race, but these are the current odds. We the People is at 8-1. Mo Donegal right now is the current favorite. Interesting how this has gone. With me, Andy Serling, New York Racing Association handicapper, and of course the man who's won this race 3 times in the past, Hall of Famer Gary Stevens.
Yeah, guys, and I'll tell you, Rich Strike, he won the race legitimate. He ran racehorse time. He came out of the race well. I love that he's been rested. Going into the Belmont Stakes, he's adapted and adjusted well. One of the main questions is his rider, Sonny Leone. He's never ridden a race on the main track. He rode a mile and a 16th race on the turf course today. I was at the hotel listening to the early show. Richie said something, and he said, you know, he did win the Kentucky Derby. He had never rode a Kentucky Derby before either. He rode as good a race in the Derby of any race I've ever seen anyone ride. I don't think it's going to bother him. If the horse is there for him, they'll do well.
More than met the moment in that Kentucky Derby. He's not a Hall of Famer, but that seemed like a Hall of Fame ride. He's only going to get, before that Belmont Stakes, Andy, one test on dirt in a 6-furlong sprint.
It is a tricky situation. I will say, though, if a Hall of Fame type rider had given the ride that Sonny Leone did in the Derby, they'd be calling it one of the best big race rides ever.
Horse to catch. He looks like he's the lone speed in the race. He has the rail. He went gate to wire in the Peter Pan. We the People's 8-1 right now.
I don't like We the People in this race. On the other hand, I thought he'd be closer to 2-1. So my betting against him was based on being a shorter price. At 8-1, even at 6-1, I can see the argument for him. My problem with him is that wet seal track races, especially for loose controlling speeds, they often get exaggerated. The Beyer figure of 103 is legitimate, but it's not the kind of number that you can really rely on to be predictive going forward. And as good as he is, his earlier races aren't fast enough. He's the controlling speed, and when the weather looked horrible for Saturday, I think his chances were much better. Whether or not he can do it in a dry track, we'll see. But 8-1 is too big a price.
His trainer, Rudolph Brissett, believes he can run over any kind of racetrack. He kind of lost his race, his only defeat in that Arkansas Derby before the race.
That doesn't even count, that effort. 3 weeks, I agree. He's undefeated in races he could have won.
So he should be leading the way. 2 very, very different running styles from the Kentucky Derby winner and the horse who was the morning line favorite. Let's go to Maggie Wolfendale for more.
Well, Greg, I'm out here on the main track at the quarter pole, which at Churchill Downs is where Sonny Leon launched his bid with Rich Strike. So let's talk a little bit about the difference in the configurations of Belmont and Churchill. Here at Belmont, the stretch is only 1,997 feet. At Churchill, it's 1,234 feet. So therefore, it's an oval that, has tight turns and longer straightaways, whereas this Belmont oval is a bit more of an elongated circle. So he's going to have to time things right. And watching Belmonts over the past 20, 30 years, you don't want to be more than 3 lengths off of it down the backside. And he is going to have to sit closer than what he did in the Derby because he's not going to get that supersonic pace. Now, his trainer, Eric Reed, he has expressed some concerns about his running style, but he's hopeful for what Saturday may bring.
Anytime you can win a race like the Belmont, it's a great thing. I mean, it's the test of champions, and it's a race that's very difficult to win for a lot of reasons. Distance, the pace of the race, running style comes to play, and that we don't have the best running style for the Belmont, but I just don't see him being quite as far behind as everybody seems to think he's going to be in the race. So, it would be a big notch for him to win the Derby and then also come and prove he can get the 1.5 miles against, a quality field. And who wouldn't want to win at Belmont Park?
No one gave these connections a chance in the Kentucky Derby. They barely got into the race. Ethereal Road passing Dwayne Lucas on the Kentucky Derby just minutes before you weren't going to be able to get into the starting gate. Allowed that horse to get in, winds up winning its second biggest upset in the history of the Run for the Roses. You can play the Belmont Stakes with Naira Bets. Get a $25 free play in the Belmont, plus that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus with that code Belmont25. Go to NairaBets.com or download the Naira Bets app to get signed up and started. 3 horses returned from the Kentucky Derby. Of course, the winner, Mo Donegal, had the dreaded rail, although it's not as bad as it was in past years, and Barber Road returns as well.
Yeah, Mo Donegal broke a little slow, but he doesn't have much speed. He didn't run his best race. He didn't have an absolutely perfect trip, but he got such a fast pace to close into it was disappointing. But to me, he has the best resume of anybody overall coming into this race. And having Todd Pletcher in your corner of the Belmont Stakes is as good as it gets.
Yeah, you guys, look, all 3 of these horses are in the same area code. Barber Road, Mo Donegal, Rich Strike, all in the same area code going into the first turn, back at the back of the pack. Sonny Leon made a great move right there. He got the jump of those guys and was able to control things all the way to that point. Now, what happens here? They find themselves way out in no man's land.
Yeah, I don't think they lost that much ground, but if you're Irad Ortiz riding Mo Donegal, one of the favorites, you can't take a risk and go inside and get yourself blocked.
No.
If you're Sonny Leon riding an 80-to-1 shot, you can gamble it up a little bit. He gambled it up. He rode brilliantly. It worked out.
And a horse with acceleration. I said yesterday, that's a horse that's handy. He's quicker than they are. Might not.
Ran away from a little in the backstretch.
Yeah, you can't get Mo Donegal stopped. You can't get Barber Road stopped. It's a shorter field than what we had in the Kentucky Derby.
There's the trackist information, and look at the miles per hour that Rich Strike peak was able to hit, over 44 miles per hour.
Right. There are some questions about some of that track information. I'm not quite sure. Mo Donegal ran less feet than Rich Strike.
So 3 runners coming out of that Kentucky Derby. Jonathan Kinchin, of those 3, who do you prefer?
Yeah, look, I like Mo Donegal. I agree. I don't think Rich Strike's style necessarily fits the Belmont Stakes. Now, some people are probably giggling at me at home because Mo Donegal has a similar style. He comes from out of it. But the difference is that Mo Donegal is trained by Todd Pletcher. Todd Pletcher's won this race 3 times, but there's a couple of times he didn't win this race that has me excited about Mo Donegal. With Dunkirk in 2009, a horse that had no speed early, a very deep closer, found himself on the lead. In 2014, another horse, Commissioner, never really shown any speed for Todd Pletcher, found himself on the lead. I think Irad Ortiz and Todd Pletcher will have a plan to get Mo Donegal more involved early, therefore eliminating my biggest concern about his style. He ran well in the Kentucky Derby, losing a ton of ground coming off of the turn. He didn't have the best of trips from the inside in the first place. I think he is going to make Mike Rapoli a very happy man and win the Belmont Stakes.
A race that, brings up Mike Rapoli, native New Yorker. who would love to win New York's premier race here, this Belmont Stakes presented by Naira Bets. Again, look at the current odds, where they stand. Let's go through this field. Again, the horse who should be leading the way, the Peter Pan winner, We the People, looking to become the first Peter Pan Belmont double winner since Tonalist.
And listen, he's a very talented horse. Horse that Gary Stevens been on since before he made his first start, actually. Dry track, trying to wire this field may be trickier. I think 8-1's an overlay, but 2-1 an underlay.
Next door, long shot, Skippy Longstocking, trained by Safi Joseph Jr., and Manny Franco will ride.
Yeah, look, he's going to be a huge surprise if he happens to win. He was fifth, beaten 7.5 lengths in the Preakness, a long ways back. He just hasn't been fast enough. I don't know what the turnaround is going to be to put him in the winner circle, but maybe they can pick up a piece of it. It's Belmont.
He was third in the wood behind Mo Donegal in early voting, and then non-threatening fifth in that Preakness. He would need a big step up. The filly Nest, she'll get a little bit of weight as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mike Rapoli. It's not just Mo Donegal that he's got a shot to win the Belmont with. He's part owner of this horse as well. We'll see. Can history repeat itself in an odd way? Todd Pletcher won with a filly, beating Curlin. Now he's trying to win with a daughter of Curlin in this Belmont Stakes.
Be an incredible story. The Kentucky Derby winner passed on the Preakness. Shows up here, Eric Reed, Sonny Leone, and Rich Strike.
Man, I've become a huge fan of this whole team. This horse, the way he came out of the Kentucky Derby, how he's been training here at Belmont Park. Sonny Leone, Eric Reed. What a story this is. I'm rooting hard for him, guys.
Triple Crown was on the line back in 2002 when Kenny McPeak shocked everybody with Sarava at 71. He'll send out Creative Minister, who was third in the Preakness.
He is my choice in this race. He has the speed to be close enough to We the People, and I like the fact that his buyer figures have improved with every single start. He takes another step forward and he handles the distance. I think he could be the one to beat.
Wood Memorial winner. He ran down a lone speed in that Wood win.
He did run down lone speed, and that when he didn't have traffic like he did in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's going to get a much cleaner trip than what he got in the Derby, obviously, with only 8 runners in the race.
Rad Ortiz Jr. will be aboard for Pletcher. Golden Glider, Dylan Davis getting his first test in a Triple Crown event for Mark Casse.
He's 20-1 morning line, and based on his PPs, he should be a bigger price. Mark Casse set this race 3 years ago. This would be an even bigger upset.
And trainer John Ortiz, his first Triple Crown this year. Barber Road returns from that 6th place finish in the Derby.
Picks up the services of Joel Rosario. Blinkers are coming off this horse. He's very, very consistent. He shows up every race. He was only beaten 4 lengths in the Kentucky Derby. Less traffic is going to help Barber Road as well. Is he fast enough?
Well, when we heard that tremendous call from Tom Durkin, and it's a filly in the Belmont. It had been 102 years since we had seen that with Rags to Riches. Can Todd Pletcher do it again with Ness, the daughter of Curlin? Jose Ortiz will ride. More coming up on our Belmont Stakes preview show.
Who you betting on? How about an app created specifically for horse racing? Naira Bets. We specialize in thundering hooves, fist pumping, and boosting your bankroll with robust weekly promotions. And offer betting tips from actual horse racing experts. Bet all day and night, nationwide. Get the action and thrill of horse racing with Naira Bets.
He was just put together like a machine, and he had a great mind. Everything about him was what you'd want.
Tis the Law pops the cork in the champagne. Tis the Law is going to win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
I've never seen him get tired.
Respect the law. Tis the Law.
His structure is just perfect. His bone is perfect.
He's left the others behind. He's going to win the Run Happy Travers.
He's everything you would look for in a horse.
top of the stretch. A filly is in front of the Belmont, but Curlin is right there with her. These two in a battle of the sexes in the Belmont Stakes. It is Curlin on the inside, Rags to Riches on the outside. A desperate finish. Rags to Riches and Curlin. They're coming down to the wire. It's going to be very close, and it's going to be a filly in the Belmont. Rags to Riches has beaten Curlin in 100 years of Belmont history. The first filly to win it in over a century.
I got chills when I saw that stretch drive. And remember, she stumbled badly out of the gate. John Velasquez did a tremendous job just to stay aboard.
Nah, this was an incredible performance by her. This was an amazing performance, a career-making performance. Nest is no Rags to Riches. Rags to Riches came into the Belmont as a much far superior horse to Nest. On the other hand, Curlin is far superior to anybody that Nest is going to face in this Belmont Stakes. It's not going to take that kind of effort to win this year.
The more ground, the better, Gary. Todd Pletcher has continually said with this filly.
Yeah, well, he nominated her for the Triple Crown way back when, specifically so he could get her in the Belmont Stakes. So with her pedigree and everything, that's what he was thinking all along. She does run second in the Kentucky Oaks, made a long sustained run. She's proved that she can make that long run. She did it in the Ashland, moved early to get up and win that race, but she's going to have to move very early in this race, but she just keeps galloping.
She's going to have to get faster to win it. It's interesting, Eclipse won this race with Tappert a few years ago. Mike Rapoli took a horrible beat in this race just 11 years ago with Stay Thirsty. So we'll see. We'll see if things can work out for them here. If she improves with distance, she's definitely a player.
Adds a lot of intrigue to this race. Todd Pletcher, 2 chances at a 4th win in the Belmont Stakes. Let's go to Acacia Clement for more.
We all know that trainer Todd Pletcher has a terrific record in the Belmont Stakes, and this year Mo Donegal and Nest will look to add to his tally in that race. The filly Nest, you could say she was born for this, by Curlin, a runner-up in the Belmont Stakes, ironically enough to Rags to Riches, who was a filly trained by Todd Pletcher, and she's out of a mare who's by AP Indy, a Belmont Stakes winner. Not to mention, Nest adds a little bit of girl power to the final leg of this year's Triple Crown.
How so?
All about the distance for her, and you know, back in January when we nominated her to the Triple Crown, this was the race that we had in mind. It wasn't so much the Derby or the Preakness, but we wanted to make sure we had her, you know, eligible for the Belmont. She's strongly bred for the distance. She's always been a good galloping filly that you know, doesn't pull hard. You know, it has a lot of the characteristics of horses that tend to do well at longer distances.
History has a way of repeating itself, and trainer Todd Pletcher will look to win his 4th Belmont Stakes and maybe the 2nd time with a filly. With her pedigree, with the way she's been training, it looks like Nest will stay all day.
We'll find out if she can get it done. Nest, the filly, 4-1 currently on the odds for this 154th edition of the Belmont Stakes. Kenny McPeak, he had a couple of highly regarded contenders for the Triple Crown this year, but now it's Creative Minister, who we didn't even see in the Kentucky Derby, who has stepped onto the stage.
Right, not one of the ones that Kenny was talking up. Gets a very good trip and a very good ride from Brian Hernandez to win this race. But this was a nice field, and he ran well to get it done. And then he takes in the Preakness. He's the only horse in this race to have run on the day of every Triple Crown race, running on Derby Day, coming back 2 weeks later and running the Preakness, and he seems to keep getting better. Can he take another step forward? Can he handle the distance?
Watching that race right there, listen, when you ride horses and give them good trips, it's because they're capable of making that trip for you. And he proved at an early stage that he could cut the corner, he could sit in and take traffic for a horse that very inexperienced, came back, ran a great race in the Preakness. He should step forward again. He stepped forward with each and every one of his 4 races.
Son of Creative Cause, and there's that tap it on the bottom side of the pedigree, which always bodes well in a Belmont. Of course, you can play it with Naira Bets. Get a $25 free bet in the Belmont Stakes and that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. New members, use that code right there, Belmont25. Download the app or go to NairaBets.com. Let's get Paul LaDuca's selection for the Belmont.
Paul Duca here from Churchill Downs. You can see the Rich Strike sign is above me, who won the Kentucky Derby. And do I like him in the Belmont? I did earlier in the week, but you know what? The more and more I keep looking at these past performances, I land on Mo Donegal. And the reason why is, I get it. Todd Pletcher's won 3 Belmonts. A lot of people are going to point towards that. But that's a big part of it. And here's a horse that in 5 out of his 6 starts has drawn the 1 or the 2 hole, and he's not a great gate horse. I feel that if he gets an outside gate slot, which he did get in the Belmont, he might be able to stay a little bit closer. Now, you don't want to really change his running style, as it looks like We the People on the inside is going to have an early lead. But I just can't get over Todd's stats when it comes to the Belmont Stakes. And when you look at Mo Donegal's Kentucky Derby a little bit more up close, he was pushed out of the gate a tiny bit by Adrian Ortiz Jr. to get position. And that might have taken a little bit of his pizzazz late in the race when Rich Strike was traveling a lot better. I just think going into Todd Pletcher's backyard, you're getting Mo Donegal. He's won 3 Belmonts. I'm just playing the stats. Mo Donegal to win the Belmont. Greg?
All right, Paulie, we'll see how it plays out for Mo Donegal if he could take home this August Belmont Trophy. Test of the Champion. Stakes selection time for all of our analysts coming up when we return. We'll see where everybody went when we come back on this Belmont Stakes preview show.
Whether it's Division I or Grade 1, top athletes have certain traits in common. Speed, strength, class, versatility, and most of all, willpower. Claiborne Farm Stallion, War of Will, was a Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf. Now, his first foals are taking the field.
Introducing a stallion, as top class as they come. In 22 career starts, he won or placed in 12 graded stakes, competing in 15 grade ones, earning over $1.7 million. His undisputed speed is evidenced by 7 100-plus buyer speed figures, a 3-time grade 1 winner, Raging Bull.
Idol perfectly timed. Idol gets up under Joel Rosario to win the big gap. It's known agenda for St. Elias Stable.
Race and the race, scintillating performance in the TBG Del Mar debutant.
And Clariere will win the cotillion. Down to the wire. Who's going to win it? It's Mala by a neck.
Curling, the classic sire.
We take pride in what we do.
I'm an assistant trainer.
Carpenter.
I'm a peace officer.
I'm a jockey.
I'm a gardener.
I'm a groom.
I love what I do.
We are New York Racing.
New York Racing helps support my small business.
It's extremely important to the New York economy.
This is like a big family.
We are New York Horse Racing.
We're back at the Belmont Stakes preview show, program brought to you in part by legendary Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual, unusually well. Again, a look at the field that will line up this loaded stakes schedule on Belmont Stakes Day, presented by Naira Bets. One of 8 grade 1s on the program, including that superstar showdown in the Met Mile, Gary.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to watching Flightline. Grade 1 winner of the Malibu. He's only started 3 times, all triple-digit buyers in those races. He's going to have to face Speaker's Corner for Billy Mott, another very talented horse. And last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, Aloha West, trying to stretch out to the mile distance. But this horse has been electric. He's undefeated, and it should be a heck of a show tomorrow, guys.
John Sadler called him a life changer, said he's not a normal horse. He is an exceptional horse. Long layoff and now shipping. Andy, we got another champion, 2 champions actually returning in the same race tomorrow as well.
No, an incredible matchup in the Ogden Phipps. You've got 5 horses, 4 grade 1 winners. Bonnie South feels like a grade 1 type horse. Search results and Malathot hooking up for the first time since the Kentucky Oaks. Last year's champion, older filly, Latruska, she's going to flaunt her speed. Search results will try to stalk her, see if she can do some damage to her. Malathot will be waiting way back along with Clairiere. I think this race is going to be absolutely terrific. Can't wait to see the Ogden Phipps.
One of so many fun races we have on one of the best days of racing anywhere in the country all year long. Latruska, questions about her coming back as a 6-year-old. So far, she has more than answered them. Belmont Stakes, current odds again. Let's go to Acacia and Maggie for their selections.
I think Maggie and I have the same kind of thought process here. Greg, I'm on We the People. He does look to be the controlling speed from the inside. Physically, from what I saw from him in the Peter Pan last time out, he can go the distance. And Maggie, he's progressed a lot for Rudy Brissett.
Mentally, I think more than anything, Acacia. We saw him lose his race over in Arkansas. And 2, he didn't get a clean trip to the lead. Well, this time around in the Belmont, it looks as though he should be straight to the lead. And 2, I love the way he's been training here, Acacia. Just taking everything in stride. I think it's a key factor that he is prepared from the Peter Pan to the Belmont here at Belmont. I know we're on team We the People. I know one guy who's against a bit We the People. Andy, who do you like?
I like Creative Minister. I just feel like he's going to be a square price in the 6-to-1 range in this race, improving with every start. I think he has a real chance to give Ken McPeek another Belmont winner 20 years after he won it with the upset winner, Sarava. Jonathan, how about you?
I'm going to go with Mo Donegal. I think he's going to give Todd Pletcher his 4th Belmont Stakes. Mike Rapoli is first, and Irad Ortiz will put this horse into the race and will make the right decisions as a jockey. But speaking of a jockey, let's talk about a guy who's won this race 3 times more than me. G, who do you like?
I like We the People, guys. I loved his race in the Peter Pan. I watched him train all winter long. I've been a fan of his from the get-go. I think that he can gallop him to death on the lead, so I'm going to be rooting for the Derby winner, Rich Strike, but I'm on We the People.
Take a look at all of our selections in here, and We the People, just like the Peter Pan, even though it was that little bit of moisture in the track that day, Rudy Brissett believes he can win on any kind of racetrack. I think he's going to control from start to finish in here. Going to be tough to run down. A lot of love for We the People. Everyone's going to have to run him down to win this race.
I hope Rudy Brissett doesn't see that. He's carrying the weight of the
Looking
world.
at this, you'd think he's 4-5. He's 8-1 right now.
I'm happy to be alone in this list.
Have you seen Rudy trying to gallop this horse? I guarantee you his arm size has grown 3 inches from galloping We the People all winter long.
I could make fun of you about some selections, but you told us before this horse made his debut at Oakland, we were doing the show, that you love this horse. So you love this horse before anybody.
Look, I know there's no one picked Rich Strike, but in terms of what he can do in the race, what kind of showing do you think we'll see?
I think we're going to see a great showing. And like I said, I'm rooting for him because I think the horse is an athlete. I think he may show some speed like he did the first start of his life going a flat mile at Churchill Downs. He laid closer to a pace. Granted, it was $32,000 claimers, but he did show more speed in that claiming race. And Eric Reed has... I like him.
Andy,
really do.
Look, he may not. And first of all,
I hope I'm wrong.
Okay, listen, but potentially there's one horse that's going to go to the front in here. Are there some other races down the line where he gets a more realistic pace setup? Where you think he's going to be a factor?
He could be, but I'm just never going to take a horse that won and raced in a meltdown. He got a tremendous situation for him. I'm not saying he can't win. I think he'll be over bet because he's a Derby winner, and I hope that he does well because he's a great story. But for me as a handicapper and horse player, I'm never going to like Rich Strike in this race.
See what he can do. It will be fun. He has looked tremendous. It looks like he has matured a lot, too, from that Kentucky Derby, and at least settled down a little bit. We saw after that win in the Derby, he was still biting at the pony.
Well, Eric Reed has already said that he's pointing for the Travers after this race, so drop back to the 1.25 miles. We'll get to see a matchup.
And he might get to see a better pace that day.
Probably not a worse one. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a speed duel up front. Who knows?
Going to be fun. 154th edition of the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes. Hope you enjoy it, everyone. It's going to be a tremendous day of racing. If you're not here, I hope you catch us early as well. We are back on beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Rich Strike. Can he do it again? He's going to have to try and run down We the People and the Philly Nest. 15 years ago, Todd Pletcher won it with Rags to Riches. He'll try and do it again with his daughter of Curlin, who, of course, Rags to Riches beat in that incredible stretch stool. The August Belmont Trophy awaits.